Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com and celebrity spokesmodel for SAME. Check out our fabulous merch shop where you can get this, for example. Anyway, I am here today to talk about, once again, Erich Kleiber. Now, did you ever think you would... Erich Kleiber's legendary. Do you ever think you would be saying, Erich Kleiber, again? Well, this is his complete Deca Recordings. Whoopee! Yay! Erich Kleiber. Why is my reaction so blasé? Well, the reason it's so blasé is because, let us not forget, Erich Kleiber in his previous incarnations. This is such an example of major label wacky insanity, silly, foolish, crazy, senseless, insane buffoonery. Yes, that's what it is, my friends. Let us start at the beginning, shall we? In the beginning, the Lord created heaven and the earth. And he worked for 6 days and rested on the 7th day. But on the 6th day, he created Erich Kleiber. And here's the problem. Erich Kleiber died in 1955, something like that, somewhere around there. He didn't actually make a lot of recordings. And so the ones he did make, because he's so famous, because he was so highly respected, and deservedly so, don't get me wrong, he was a splendid conductor. These recordings have been endlessly reissued, sometimes in boxes, sometimes independently, in different various budget labels or historical reissues or in every which way. But there have been many attempts to put his stuff in a box, and you only really know how stupid some of those previous efforts were until you get the complete one. And then you wonder, well, why didn't they just do the complete one originally? Because most of us, most serious collectors, will have purchased an Erich Kleiber box. Everybody wants an Erich Kleiber box because it's great stuff. We're not talking about any possible reason not to have your historical Erich Kleiber box. He's better than his son, Carlos, I think, at least in the pieces which they both did. And they did a lot of the same stuff. Carlos basically sort of repeated Dad's career over again in stereo. That was sort of like the life of Carlos Kleiber. So Erich Kleiber was just an enormously influential and important guy. And he was also, part of his reputation also comes from the fact historically that he left Nazi Germany for Argentina, whence his son Carlos acquired his first name because he was not in sympathy with the Nazi government. And of course, that got him a lot of well-deserved political props after the war. But let's just stick with the musical issues because it's the music that matters. So way back at the dawn of time, right after Philips became Deca, this thing showed up. And I don't know why Philips becoming Deca. Maybe I just imagined that. But Deca's Deca. These were originally Deca recordings anyway, for the most part, I believe. But in any case, someone else will tell me, and so I don't have to worry about it. Here they are. Deca Recordings, 1949 to 1955. Note that it does not say complete Deca Recordings. What you have here are 6 discs, 6 orchestral discs, with none of the operas, because there were a couple operas, which are fantastic, which are legendary, fantastic. So that was not in here, but it was a wonderful way to get his 6 basic discs of orchestral stuff, except for the Tchaikovsky Symphonies 4 and 6, which he did with the Paris Conservatory Orchestra. And I have no idea why those were never included in these sets. It was such a Germanically censored, nonsensically chauvinistic thing to do, because he did have more of a range than just doing like Beethoven, which is essentially what this is for. So here we have the original one. Now, when did this come out? Does this have a date? It probably has a date. a teeny tiny date, 2004 is when this thing showed up. And there were earlier ones before that, but I'm starting with this, okay? Then, shortly thereafter, let's see, what year have we here? Here's another one, 2015. So 11 years later, this sucker showed up. Now, this box has exactly the same 6 discs as this box, although they very cleverly package it differently and describe it differently on the back. Here it's done by composer. Here it's done disc by disc. So you might be tricked into getting this, thinking somehow that the selection of orchestral pieces is different from the one on here, but they are exactly the same. Exactly the same, except that in this box, you get the 2 operas. You get the Marriage of Figaro, and you get the celebrated Der Rosenkavalier. So we're getting closer. We're getting closer to the complete Erich Kleiber. So, but still no Tchaikovsky. So there you go. Then finally, now, just minutes ago, this thing showed up. So here we have Erich Kleiber, the complete Deca Recordings. So you have the 6 discs that were in here, plus the 2 operas, plus Tchaikovsky 4 and 6, plus another disc of, well, it's not even a whole disc. It's like a little selection of tchotchkes. You get Joseph Strauss's Sphärenklänge, and the harmony of the spheres waltzes, and J. Strauss II, the Gypsy Baron Overture, and you get Dvorak's Carnival Overture. These are with the LPO, the London Philharmonic, and there's a little Handel piece, the Andante from Berenice, and that's basically, and then all the same stuff that you have in all the other things. You also get, for CD15, an audio documentary feature, one of those reminiscences things that's produced by John Tolansky. He's better known for doing it for all the EMI compilations, but they got him to do one for Decca as well, and so we have that. If you want to listen to it, I have not, and I don't plan to. Anyway, so essentially, you're getting exactly what you got in this box back in 2015, except you get 4 other short works and the 2 Tchaikovsky symphonies. And that's what you get. And is there any possible reason why you would get this if you didn't have this? I need to tell you, if you just want the 2 Tchaikovsky symphonies, because the short things don't matter. I mean, the 2 bits of Strauss family and Dvorak's Carnival Overture, the little Handel thingy, I mean, who cares? They're not going to make or break your perception of Kleiber. Their early recordings are with the LPO, which no person in the 1940s could make sound great. I mean, nobody did. Lots of people recorded with them, and they always sounded kind of grotty. And so they don't matter. And if you want just Tchaikovsky 4 and 6, they're available on Australian Eloquence. Separately, at budget price, it's like 2 discs for $15 or something like that. And I just checked, and they're just available. So you can supplement this with the 2 Tchaikovsky symphonies, and you're just fine. There's no need to buy this. So, having gotten that lunacy out of the way, let's just go through this one more time as if we really need to, and just so that we all know where we are, what's in it, and, well, I can just look at the back and do it that way. Maybe that's easier. Let's see here. Hang on a moment. Rather than looking at the booklet, you do get a booklet. I mean, it's a nice box. It's sturdy. It opens this way sensibly. It's not one of those boxes of doom that you're going to take off the shelf and it's going to fall apart and, break your foot bone or something and scatter discs all over the place. It's 15 CDs, by the way. So what do you get? Well, you know what's on disc 1. It's Sphärenklänge and the Gypsy Baron, the Carnival Overture, and the Tchaikovsky 4. Now, of course, these are both with the Tchaikovsky symphonies, that is with the Paris Conservatory Orchestra, which is its fabulous self, except when it isn't. But in this case, it's in good shape. They could play like a bunch of drunken Frenchmen, which is what they probably were some of the time. But in any case, the Tchaikovsky Fourth is not a great Tchaikovsky Fourth. It's okay. It's decent. It gets better as it goes. It sort of warms up after the first movement, but it's Kleibers, so you listen to it and it's fine. The Pathetique is really good. It's a very good Pathetique, and it's wonderful to have it. It's wonderful to hear that orchestra play it. So that deals with the Tchaikovsky. Now, the other stuff, you get a Mozart G minor, also with the LPO, which is nothing special, and a Beethoven Pastoral Symphony with the LPO, which happily he remade with the Concertgebouw. And that, of course, is the famous one, and it's the one to get. So next, now we're already on CDs 3 through 5, that's the Beethoven stuff. With the Concertgebouw, you get Symphonies 3, 5, 6, and 7. And they are legendary performances. They are marvelous. They sound pretty decent. The Eroica is the earliest one. He remade it in Vienna, but a lot of people prefer the Amsterdam one. I do, for example, but they're both terrific. So that's fine. And then you get the ninth. Yes, and it's nice to have, of course. That's with Vienna. Then on CD 6, well, that's the Tchaikovsky 6 we already talked about. CDs 7 and 8. Now, there is the Vienna Eroica, and then a bunch of Cologne radio recordings, which are, again, they're okay. They're not fabulous. It's Schubert's great C major symphony, Weber's first symphony, some Mozart German dances, and Symphony number 39. They are sort of typical Kleiber performances, swift, intelligent, well-paced, disciplined, good performances. They have been superseded about 100 million times since then. So, let's not kid ourselves, shall we? Then we have CDs 9 through 11 is Der Rosenkavalier, which is fantastic. And everybody has it. It's with Hilde Gooden and Sena Urinach, and, great stuff. And then you've got The Marriage of Figaro with Cesare Siepi and Lisa Della Casa and Hilde Gooden and Fernando Corena. And, oh, my goodness. Just a classic Marriage of Figaro, that wonderful Viennese ensemble cast, and then the talk at the end. And that's the whole box. That is all of Erich Kleiber on Decca. There isn't much else. There was that Polydor early stuff box, which sounds early, and it's not terribly special. And if you have any of these other ones, like I said, just get the Tchaikovskys, and you're in business. You can get it. If you have this and don't care about the operas, just get the Tchaikovskys. If you have this and care about the operas, then you have them and just get the Tchaikovskys. Or if for some twisted reason you have no Erich Kleiber, then get this. And for those of you, I know some of these talks, especially of these historical reissues, are going to sound very esoteric. And I apologize for that because, I really want these talks generally to be useful to beginners and to people who are just starting to collect classical recordings. And there's a lot of insider information here and things that are generally known that some of you may not know yet. Don't sweat that. You're learning it. You're going to learn it now. You're seeing it happen. Just take it all in. If you are one of those newbies who is looking to collect classical repertoire, and you've heard about Erich Kleiber, the dad of Carlos, and his legendary reputation, just know that his most famous musical deed probably was preparing the first performance of Berg's opera Wozzeck. That was a big deal historically. And after that, if you don't have any of his recordings, get this. It's wonderful. The performances are great for the most part. Definitely worth hearing. He was a major conductorial voice. His style was squarely in the tradition of Arturo Toscanini. That is disciplined, sharp, excellent ensembles, generally swift tempos, nice firm rhythms. It's good stuff. Very, very good stuff. Perhaps leavened with a little Viennese lilt now and again. But that's what you need to know about him. He was a great conductor, a great voice. And if you don't have any of his stuff, by all means, get this. It's all in mono, except for The Marriage of Figaro, which managed to get itself into stereo before he passed away from the mid-50s, the mid-1950s, that is, not the 1850s. So, go get your Erich Kleiber if you don't have this. But my goodness, don't you just wish they did it right the first time and saved us all this agita and all this aggravation? It's just kooky. Absolutely kooky. So keep on listening, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.